Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'll be breaking down my concept for a horror fighting game featuring characters from horror movies, classics, urban legends, video games, and more. But before I get into the video, I want to give a massive thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel and helped me get this far. If you guys are new here, we are almost to 10,000 subscribers. By the time I upload this, we'll probably be at about 9.5. That's only 500 subscribers away from 10,000. So if you want to help me with that, please consider subscribing. With that being said, I would also like to give a massive thank you to everyone for the support, as well as YouTube for helping me during that demonetization stage that I was going through. It was very scary, but to be fair, it wouldn't be October without a little bit of fear into my soul. With that being said, let's get into this video. So I'll be referring to the game, and I've kind of deemed it Legends of Fear. I wanted to give a title that really puts some respect on all of these horror legends and not just characters from movies. As much as I love Jason and Chucky and Ghostface and others, I think we need to put some respect on the names of classic monsters as well as urban legends monsters such as Mothman or Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and especially video game characters such as Isaac Clarke or Leon Kennedy. I really wanted the title to really fit all different genres of horror, so that's why I chose the title Legends of Fear. All of the original designs were put together by me using Midjourney AI to generate a lot of the assets while spending hours and days of work on the weekends after my job, spending time editing these together to make this look as professional as possible, to create a sort of real life pitch to what a video game like this could possibly look like. I really wanted to put a lot of effort into the graphic design aspect of what this would look like and a lot of video production into really visualizing what a horror fighting game would look like in the real world. Some people may say that a video game like this is pretty much impossible because of all the different licensing and all the different IPs that the company would have to get their hands on. But honestly, I don't think that's true. If you look at games like Dead by Daylight or Fortnite, there's so many different collaborations in these games. I don't think that it's impossible. Yes, it's hard and there's a lot of contractual agreements that have to go into a video game like this, but saying that it's impossible is just not true. We thought a lot of things were impossible. We thought Andrew Garfield would never return as Spider-Man. We thought we would never see a young Luke Skywalker again in Mark Hamill's likeness, but here we are in 2023 with both of those things. So I will not take the argument that this is impossible. It just takes a little bit of effort and love from the community. The different game modes that I would propose for a fighting game like this is obviously a strong single player mode, as well as a very strong tag team multiplayer mode. And I'll get in depth later why that is important. I think that they should also have a ladder or tower mode like Mortal Kombat does. They should also have an area where you can customize your characters and other cosmetics that will be unlockable for the game, and I'll get in depth in all of these a little bit later. They should also have a very strong online system that has different ranked modes, competitive, but also casual and fun modes, so that way the game never feels boring. The biggest game mode that I would struggle with a game like this is obviously the story. Why would so many different horror icons be coming together to fight? It's not an original universe such as DC or Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, where all of these characters already exist in the same universe. Some of them do, but not all of them. So I really struggled with that, but I think it would make more sense if a story mode followed each character as you were playing a tower match, and maybe the story would change depending on which character you chose. That way there's so many different, variations of this story that you get to see from each character's point of view. Speaking of characters, let's get into the roster for a game like this. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of horror movie characters, but I also wanted to include a lot of classic characters from urban legends, and video game characters as well, since there's so many different genres of horror. Obviously, for a horror fighting game, we have to include our boy Jason Voorhees. He's probably the easiest pick on this list, and before I get so far in depth with the other characters, I know that there's so many characters you could put into a game like this, and these are just a lot of my favorites and a lot of characters that I think would play very well. So obviously, Jason Voorhees, one of the most iconic horror movie characters of all time, we have to include our boy. I think he would be a brute force, and a lot of his gameplay would be really cool. Obviously, if we're having Jason, you gotta put Freddy in there as well. He's already been in a fighting game similar to Jason, and I think, you know, there's so much that they could do with his different supernatural abilities. Freddy would be an awesome addition to a game like this. Another household name of scary movies, obviously Michael Myers from the Halloween series. He has made a resurgence recently, and I fell in love with this character, and I love the way that he is portrayed in the movies, and I think that if the game really played into how creepy he can be, there is so much opportunity for a character like this. I know a lot of people might see just a guy with a knife, but I think that there's a lot of cool stuff they could do with his brute strength as well, similar to Jason. Another character that has already made a debut in a fighting game is Leatherface. Obviously, being a chainsaw wielder is super cool just on its own, but being able to see what this man could do in Mortal Kombat X really made me want to include him on this roster as well. Leatherface is an awesome character that has so many options for customization as well, because he's had so many different looks, and I think that this is a very fitting character for a fighting game, considering his awesome weapon that he could use. Now, even though I talk about how much I hate clowns on this channel all the time, we have to include our boy Pennywise. He's too iconic to leave out, and considering his supernatural abilities, there is so much that he could do on the battlefield. All of these different moves that he could do, shape-shifting, turning into different monsters, especially that crab spider, that's his natural form. There's a lot that this monstrous man could do, and I think that it would be an awesome character to add into any fighting game, especially one considering the circumstances. Now, this next character might not make sense at first because of his size, but size doesn't matter in a game like this. We're talking about our boy Chucky. Now, obviously, his size does cause a little bit of problems for things such as fatalities in a game like this, or what I'm calling death blows, which I'll get into the game mechanics later. But I think when it comes to where we are in technology, I mean, this is 2023 we're talking about. It's time for video game creators to step up the bar just a little bit, and I think if they can't make an adjustment for a character size such as Chucky, we should be focusing on different projects. I mean, there is ways to change the animation for certain moves to fit Chucky's size, and I think putting that extra work into a game like this would really pay off to have an awesome iconic character such as Chucky. When I ask a lot of people what their favorite horror character is, a lot of people will say Chucky, and so having a horror fighting game without a character like this just because of his size is just ridiculous. Also, they could do a Jennifer Tilly skin for Chucky, which I think would be an awesome idea. Moving on to the science fiction genre of horror, we have the Xenomorph from Alien. Obviously, this character worked really cool and very well in Mortal Kombat X, and having this character in a horror fighting game would be just as cool. There's so many different combos I could see with the tail and the mouth and the claws. It would just be very cool. There's also tons of cosmetics that they could do depending on which alien you want it to be. Obviously, if we're going to include the Xenomorph, we also have to include the alien from Predator. Now, I know it has an official name. It's like, I don't know how to pronounce this, guys. It's like Utah or Utah. I don't know how Utah, like the state? No, I don't know how to pronounce it. But if we're gonna have Xenomorph, we gotta have the alien Predator. It's gonna be super cool to see these characters face off again like we did in Mortal Kombat X. These characters are so iconic to the horror genre, it would just make sense to have them in the game. There's also so much that we could have for the Predator with moves when it comes to his different artillery that he can do, as well as the blades and his mouth thing as well. He's a very combative character in the movies, and there's so much opportunity for his moveset. It'd be very, very exciting to see this character redone. Okay, obviously, we have to include one of the most requested horror characters for a fighting game I've ever seen. If we're making a horror fighting game, we have to include Ghostface, whether or not they want to do the original characters or any of the other variants that Ghostface has gone throughout the movies. Either way, Ghostface has to be a character in this game. It is one of the most highly requested characters I see when I make Mortal Kombat videos, so Ghostface definitely deserves a spot on this roster. When it comes to movesets, obviously the knife is important. Sometimes Ghostface uses a shotgun as well, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity that they could do with making it a little bit more supernatural, adding like, you know, a smoke element so that way they can teleport around, adding, you know, just a little bit mysticness to a character like this so that way they just have a little bit more to offer in the moveset category. Lastly, for the movie main roster characters, I gotta have my boy Pinhead on here, the leader of the Cenobites. Guys, Pinhead has so much opportunity for movesets when it comes to a fighting game. I put a poll on my YouTube channel on which horror character should get added to Mortal Kombat, but honestly, I wanted to use that poll more for this video to see which characters you guys wanted, and I was really disappointed to see that Pinhead was so low. Pinhead has so many supernatural abilities. He can use the chains, he can use all of these different fish hook things, he can do all these different torture methods to attack the opponent. There's so much opportunity for Pinhead to be in a fighting game. His movesets would go in, they would just go insane, and his fatalities and x-rays and death blows would just, they would be super cool in a game like this. So I definitely think Pinhead deserves to be on the main roster. All right, moving on to the characters that are not specifically from movies. They may have come from books or urban legends. So obviously, I think we have to start this off with Dracula, one of the most iconic Halloween monsters ever. I mean, there's always going to be somebody dressing as Dracula on Halloween, and I think this character has a lot of opportunity in a fighting game when it comes to using, you know, the character's ability to bite and maybe take enemy life while giving their character more health, or using bats, or being able to traverse by teleporting, by turning into a bat, or different opportunities like that. I think that Dracula definitely needs some more respect in today's world, and I think that it'd be awesome to have an updated version of this character in a fighting game. Of course, if we're doing Dracula, we gotta put his best friend. Everyone knows that these guys get drinks on a Saturday night, and that is Frankenstein's monster. This dude is so bulky, dude. There's so much that they could do with his size and the bulkiness of this giant monstrous man. They could give him lightning powers if they wanted to, just to add some more moveset, a little bit more oomph to the character. But obviously, you know, this is a character that would be a brute force in the gameplay aspect. And when it comes to fatalities specifically, I think it'd be really cool if he killed them and then revived them, and then killed them and then would revive them and then kill them and revive them, like with the Dr. Frankenstein, you know, set up on the table and everything with the lightning. I think that would be a really cool continuous fatality. Next up is honestly just a character that I think I just honestly really want to see in a fighting game, and that's a werewolf. It doesn't specifically have to be the Wolfman. I think I would rather see more of a monstrous werewolf that's a little bit taller, a little bit more monstrous when it comes to its size. And I think a werewolf is definitely an underrated monster in general. This is just like me in just talking in general terms in society. So I think, you know, a character like this, using the claws, using the bite attacks, the different dash attacks, using its speed, there's a lot that they could do there. And I think, you know, maybe they could have an ability where they, you know, really take in the moonlight and grow in size continuously depending on how much moonlight there is on the stage. That's just like an idea I'm throwing out there, but I think this character would be really cool. Next up on this list is a witch. I want to see a really dark modern version of a witch. Now, they can have the pointy hair, they can have the broomstick and everything, but I really want to see a character that's like Enchantress from Injustice 2, or like an evil Scarlet Witch that we got to see in a Multiverse of Madness for Marvel. I think that'd be really cool to see this character flying around on the broomstick, doing spells and using potions for her moveset. There's so much that they could do for a character like a witch in a fighting game, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen something similar to this in a fighting game before. Now, if we're throwing my boy Frankenstein's monster in here, you know we gotta do the Bride of Frankenstein. This is one of the most iconic horror movie characters from back in the day, and I think it has one of the most iconic horror movie designs designs, in my opinion. When it comes to movesets, there could be a little bit lacking. So like I said, if they wanted to do electrical powers for her instead of Frankenstein's monster, I think that would work really well as well. They could just give her a weapon as well, such as like a knife or something. I haven't seen the movie in a very long time, so I don't think she really has that much when it comes to weaponry. But either way, such an iconic character. Plus, we need more females on this roster, so we gotta throw the Bride of Frankenstein in there as well. Next up, I want to see a mummy character, like a pharaoh zombie that's decked out in gold, that fights similar to the teacher from My Hero Academia, Eraserhead, with like the whips, using his mummy wrappings to really tie the opponent up and really, you know, move around and traverse. And I think that there's a lot of cool stuff that they could do with different Egyptian mythology. Like maybe they can call in these different Egyptian monsters to help them fight during the match. I think that there's a lot that they could do for a mummy character in a fighting game, and I think it's a really missed opportunity. The next character on this list I think would be really cool is to see a blob monster. Now, who says all of these characters have to have bones or have to be a humanoid character? Let's add some really fun characters like a blob monster, like that one from Goosebumps, you know, Monster Blood, or the one, I think the movie's literally called The Blob. Add a character like that that really moves around. It has these slides, it can punch, it can move wherever it wants to. How do you know, kill a character like this? That's a little bit different. I mean, we'd have to figure that out, but like I said, it's 2023. We can make special accommodations for a specific character model if we have to. That's the extra effort that would really push a game like this onto the next gen consoles and really put the effort into a video game that would really pay off and the fans would be able to tell the difference. So a blob monster, definitely one of the first characters that I picked for this roster. The next character that we have here is a very popular urban legend, especially among children, but let's modernize it. Let's put some respect on Bloody Mary's name. Let's add Bloody Mary to Legends of Fear. I want them to, you know, use mirrors to their advantage, be able to teleport through mirrors, use mirror glass shards, really freak out the opponent. You know, maybe they can inverse their controls using mirror stuff. Maybe they can use bloodbending similar to Scarlet in Mortal Kombat. Either way, modernizing a character like Bloody Mary would be awesome for Legends of Fear. Next up, we have Invisible Man. Now, using stealth is not usually what you can do in a fighting game, but, you know, I think that there's a lot of setups that they could do if you were to go invisible, or if there was a move to make the opponent invisible as well, because that would be very hard on the opponent if they couldn't see where their character was. I think it'd be also really cool if they also use the wrappings to their advantage, similar to the Mummy character. But either way, Invisible Man, he's one of the coolest guys. I have to include him. It's personal bias on this one, I'm sorry. Next up, finishing the main roster of this game, we have the Fishman, Swamp Monster, Creature from the Black Lagoon, whatever you want to call it. Either way, I want to see this guild creature, man, monster, swampy, disgusting, aquatic monster in a game like this. I want them to shoot water from their wrists like Spider-Man or something. I want them to really emphasize the fish, you know, aspect, make the entire stage go into like an underwater mode, and you can move faster while the opponent has to slowly traverse through the water. I think that there's so much that they could do with this. They could command, you know, these different fish like Aquaman in Injustice and Injustice 2, using, you know, sharks, or using like monstrous squids or a kraken that appears out of nowhere. I think that there's opportunity here, guys. If you guys don't think so, I feel that, like I said, there's some personal bias on these characters, but either way, I think a swamp monster would be really cool. That finishes off the main roster of this, but let's get into the DLCs that I think would fit a horror fighting game like this. I think that the DLCs should each have a theme, and I think that the theme should really fit the horror vibe. They should really emphasize different characters that we don't get to see very often, and they should really be worth the money. You know, this is extra money that the user would have to pay, so I think that these characters should really stand out. So jumping into the DLC, I kind of wanted a theme for each DLC pack. So for the first pack, we have 3 characters, first of which being Lady Dimitrescu. I hope that's how you say it, guys. Lady D from Resident Evil Village. I think that this is obviously a DLC that would sell for obvious reasons. We saw what happened to the internet when Resident Evil 8 released, and you know, we're kind of playing into the simps of the Resident Evil community with this one. But either way, I do think that this character does have potential for movesets when it comes to the vampire aspect, similar to what I said for Dracula, as well as the claws. I think that there's a lot that they could do with that aspect, as well as her height. I mean, you gotta think, like, this is a character that could be taller than Frankenstein's monster, you know what I mean? And seeing this like 8-foot, 9-foot vampire woman coming at you in a fighting game, that shit's scary, but we know the internet, you know what I mean? Next up for the video game DLC, we gotta add Pyramid Head from the Silent Hill series. I love Pyramid Head's design in general. It's like one of my favorite horror character designs of all time. I think wielding this giant, like literally multiple feet blade that's probably taller than his body would look really cool on screen, and I think adding a character like this would just be super cool and very interesting when it comes to animation specifically. I know he would have some brutal fatalities using that sword, possibly even using some of the other monsters from the Silent Hill series to, you know, call them in when he's doing a fatality. There's so much that they could do with Pyramid Head. I would be really excited if Pyramid Head was in any fighting game. This next pick might be a little bit controversial, and that's just because it's more of a recent thing and a lot of people see it as cringy, but I honestly think it has earned a name for itself and deserves a little bit of respect in the horror community, and that is Five Nights at Freddy's. I would like to see any of the animatronics, but I think either Freddy or Springtrap would obviously be the best pick for this game. I mean, we're talking about the most popular horror game in all of Apple's App Store, and we're talking about a video game series that has just taken a younger generation by storm. They have made so many of these games, really expanding the story. You cannot deny that there is a massive fan base around these games, and I do not think that it's fair to call these games like cringe or whatever just because of some of the fans. I think that this is an awesome character that we could add to a fighting game, especially considering all of their history and all of the lore that has been put into these characters. The next DLC pack that I have on here is what I would call like a fan favorite pack, and starting this off would be Art the Clown from Terrifier and Terrifier 2. Obviously, Art the Clown is a recent addition to the horror universe, and I think that this character has really made a name for itself. Every time I ask you guys who should be added to Mortal Kombat or any other fighting game, one of the most top answers is Art the Clown, and it comes from his brutality in his movies. If you haven't seen the Terrifier movies, be prepared because he is a very gruesome killer, and I think Art the Clown definitely deserves a spot on this roster. The next fan favorite character has so much versatility when it comes to their movesets and fatalities. Of course, I am talking about Jigsaw. Now, it'd be kind of hard to incorporate Billy the Puppet into the movesets. I think it'd be kind of funny if Billy just came out on the tricycle as like the character's taunt in the middle of a match, but when it comes to fatalities, using all of the different traps that Jigsaw has created in the movies, there's so much opportunity for what they wanted to pick. Obviously, you've got to have the reverse bear trap somewhere in their moveset. I think a lot of the traps from Saw would make their way into this using anything from the movies. I mean, each Saw trap is so unique, it'd be super hard to pick just one besides the reverse bear trap to be in a fighting game. Another fan favorite character that I see online a lot, but I still think is underrated, is the Mothman. This is an urban legend, and I think this is a character that really could shine in a fighting game. I mean, guys, moths are scary, dude. Moths are freaky freaking insects. They eat your clothes, okay? Moths eat clothes. Now imagine a 10-foot moth, okay, with glowing red eyes, just coming at you, flying across the screen. Yeah, I'm not doing that, dude. I think it'd be really cool, specifically if a fatality was them like making a cocoon around you or something, and then you just get birthed into like this gross moth, like monstrous, disgusting monster that just is like bleeding out and stuff, similar to the Devora fatality in Mortal Kombat 11. But either way, Mothman, definitely an online favorite character. I see him all the time online, and I think Mothman would be an awesome urban legend to add into Legends of Fear. The last DLC pack that I would do for Legends of Fear would be a survivors pack, including survivors who had to fight their way through different horror media, starting off with Isaac Clarke from the Dead Space series. Dead Space just had a remaster, so I think, you know, there's a lot of new fans and old fans who love the Dead Space series, and I think his moves in a fighting game would be really cool with all of the different weaponry that you get to upgrade and collect throughout the series, especially that laser gun that can change angles. Like, that thing's so cool. And obviously a fatality would have to include shooting off each limb of the opponent and then finally destroying their skull. This is a awesome character that I would love to see in Legends of Fear. Another video game survivor that I would love in this DLC is Leon Kennedy from the Resident Evil series. I mean, being able to kind of work as a striker substitute from Mortal Kombat, being able to use all of these different police weapons, and really showing off his natural skill for taking down villainous creatures. I would love to see Leon Kennedy in this game. Honestly, any of the human characters from Resident Evil would work as well, but personally, Leon is one of my favorites, with Chris being a close second. The final survivor is, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Bruce Campbell, Ash Williams from the Evil Dead series. We have to add our boy Ash. There has been teases time and time again for Mortal Kombat, and if they're going to be doing a horror fighting game, you have to add our boy Bruce Campbell. Come on. I mean, Ash Williams, one of the most iconic horror survivors known to man, shotgun in one hand, chainsaw replacing the other. This is a character that would be so good in the game, really breathe some life and humor into a game that is so dark and gritty. I mean, we all want to see Ash Williams, let's be honest. Seeing him go up against Leatherface with the chainsaws would be really cool as well. There's just so much opportunity to really bring this character to life, and I think that this is an obvious fan favorite character that needs to be in a horror fighting game. So there's my proposed roster for Legends of Fear. Let me know what characters I missed out on down below in the comments. I know that there's so many fan favorite horror characters that could be added to Legends of Fear, but these were just some of my favorites and ones that I think would work really well gameplay wise. So now that we got the roster out of the way, let's talk more in depth on the different modes for a game like this. Starting off with single player and its mechanics. Obviously, we got to have a strong single player. This is kind of a version of what the gameplay I think would look like. Simple fighting game. Really spooky background. I tried to make the UI look a little bit spooky, but we also have, this meter on the bottom, similar to Mortal Kombat. I think that there should be a meter system. I think that works really well. I think Mortal Kombat X really perfected it, and I really like the X-ray idea of charging up this meter and then doing this really cool cutscene moment where you get to see these characters go all out, crush some bones, rip some limbs off, really dig deep and really see the X-ray of the opponent. I would also like to see different aspects from Injustice in this game, such as environmentals, where, if you see a chainsaw on the ground, be able to pick it up and rev it into the opponent, or if there's an icicle hanging down, rip it off and just stab it into the opponent's eyes. Stuff like that really brings this video game together and really makes it feel cohesive and alive. And I really would like to see clashes as well. And obviously, if you're doing a game with horror fighting characters, you have to include a fatality system. You want to see these characters rip each other limb from limb. You want to see them do some crazy stuff on each other, and this is the perfect game to really go all out, go balls to the wall, do whatever they want, whether or not, you know, it needs to be rated higher than M for mature. That's a question for another day. But, you know, I think if they're going to do fatalities, you have to go all out. But if they're going to do fatalities, please give us 3 fatalities. You know, I know 2 is kind of the standard, but I really like pushing the expectations for video games, and having 3 fatalities would kick so much butt. Now let's talk about tag team for a minute, because I think tag team is one of the most important aspects of any fighting game known to man. You know, it really makes me sad when I see a fighting game not include a local co-op option for when you're playing the game. It really sucks when the only option for playing a fighting game is to verse someone and go head to head instead of working together on a team. I want a tag team mode similar to Mortal Kombat 9 where you have 2 full characters to play as. You know, I want to play as Freddy and Jason going up against Dracula and a werewolf. You know what I mean? I really want to see these characters work together, awesome mashups, as well as being able to have my family and friends over and play the game with them instead of against them. When you're a fan of a fighting game and you play it daily, you obviously are going to be better at the game than your friends and family who have never picked up the controller before. And having a tag team mode in a fighting game is so crucial, because then I would be able to play the game with my brother and not have to go easy, or play with my girlfriend and not, you know, have to just stand there every year just so she can do a move. You know what I mean? I want to work together when I'm playing a fighting game, especially with people who aren't as good as me. And that is really unfortunate that we haven't seen a resurgence of tag team in Mortal Kombat specifically, and a lot of other games. You know, working together is a lot more fun in video games than fighting against each other, in my opinion. So if I were to make any fighting game, horror or not, it has to include a tag team mode. It's just a necessary step, and I think that it is an expectation for people to be able to play co-op when it comes to a fighting game. But that's just my personal opinion. I think that it would be an awesome addition to this game. So moving on to a tower or ladder system for a game like this, I would call it the House of Horrors, and I'd want it to be like this creaky cabin that looks like a tower, that kind of reminds the viewer of the Cabin in the Woods movie, and each level is its own different horror character. I think that there should be a single player version where you can play 1v1, or a tag team where you can also do single player tag team, or work together with a friend against 2 other opponents per fight. I think that this is also where we could add a lot of replayability into the game, including a, you know, small story mode instead of doing an overarching story mode that's more traditional, that includes all of these different horror legends, but keeping it, you know, more consistent with just one simple story per character per tower. You know what I mean? This is also where we could add what I'm deeming the daily killer, which is, you know, this really expert tower that maybe gives you a skin or, you know, some type of cosmetic at the end of the tower. Maybe, you know, each day it's a different character, a different really hard skin to unlock, like a legendary skin that is already decided at the launch of the game. I would also like to see something that I would call psycho mode, that just has all of these different random things that happen while you're in the House of Horrors. Like maybe your controller is switched and your buttons are reversed, or maybe there's fireballs raining down, or knives swinging side to side in the middle of the fight, or you're, you know, the game goes upside down, or something just psycho like that, where, you know, there's crazy things that can happen. And we got a lot of this in Mortal Kombat 11 and Mortal Kombat X, and I would love to see it added into Legends of Fear, because it really adds a lot of replayability into this game. I would also like to see an endless tower, because, you know, sometimes you just want to fight and you just want to get a high score, and maybe there's different cosmetics that you could unlock when you beat 50 matches, 100 matches, 200 matches, you know, different stuff like that. So speaking of cosmetics, I think that there should be a free way to earn everything in a game, but there should obviously be a paid way to earn it a little bit faster, but I still think it shouldn't be impossible to unlock everything in a video game for free. But that being said, obviously different cosmetics that we would need in a game like this are skins. This is a store interface that I put together that could kind of show what a store for this game would look like, with maybe a different highlighted legendary skin each week or each day. But one thing that I didn't include on this is some other cosmetics that I think would really work for a fighting game. And I'm kind of looking at Fortnite for my expectations when it comes to cosmetics. I mean, no matter what you feel about Fortnite, you cannot bash on them for the fact that they have an insane level when it comes to cosmetics. The effort that they put into their skins and their other cosmetics is insane. I'm talking about different emotes, talking about loading screens. I mean, these are in music. They have background music that you can change in Fortnite. Now, don't get me wrong, these are small cosmetics, but when you're sitting at the home screen for 5 minutes waiting for a game to queue up, having a different loading screen music makes all the difference. Having a different loading screen makes all the difference. And these are really fun additions that we can add into a game like this. I mean, I want to see some really funny, cosmetics in loading screens. Like, let's see some, Jason Voorhees swimming in a pool with a rubber ducky floaty. You know what I mean? Like, have different artists, put in their effort to create loading screens. These are very small, cosmetics, but they make all the difference when it comes to the overall game and really creates replayability. When it comes to skins for a game like this, we need really unique skins and, iconic skins as well. Obviously, characters like Jason Voorhees would need to have, the different outfits from their different movies. But when it comes to characters like Dracula, I want to see something that really looks unique and really original for the character as well. So when it comes to characters like this, obviously, we should include a lot of different skins coming from their past. Like, we should have an original Tim Curry Pennywise, as well as the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise. We should have the Blue Mask Jason. We should have the, Jason from Jason X. We should have Reboot Freddy. We should have female Pinhead. All of these different skins that make a lot of sense for the characters. But I think we should also have really fun things, such as, a version of Frankenstein that has sunglasses and like rubber ducky, swim trunks or something. Or, really original ideas like a demonic version of Dracula. These really fun cosmetics mixed in with, the original classic looks that we all know and love. There's so much opportunity to really make this game a lot of fun, and not just the dark and brooding, gritty, scary horror fighting game. There's so much opportunity to bring some life into a game like this, especially with cosmetics. So with that being said, guys, I hope I covered everything that I had on my list for this video game concept. If there's anything that you guys feel like I missed, please let me know down below in the comments. And if you guys liked this video, please consider subscribing. We are dangerously close to 10,000 subscribers. That is a goal that I've had for a very long time for this channel. So if you want to help me there, please consider subscribing. Please share this video. It's the month of October. I'm hopefully posting this on Friday the 13th. So it is time for spooky month. So please give the video some like. This took a lot of effort to put together, and I would really appreciate it if you guys showed it some love. With that being said, comment your guys' thoughts down below. Did I miss anything? I know there's a lot of characters that you guys would like to see in a game like this, and I'm sorry if I didn't include your favorites, but I did what I could, guys. So if you guys want to see more of this project, please let me know down below in the comments. If we get 2,000 likes on this video, I will make a part 2 where I go even more in depth and really try to, really push as much as I can into a video like this. So with all that being said, guys, I hope you guys have an awesome October. Spider-Man 2 is coming out. I'll hopefully play a little bit of it on the channel. I don't know if I'm going to go through the whole story, but with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoy your October. Watch some scary movies, fantasize about this video game, consider subscribing, have fun, be respectful, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.